In this video I'm going to talk about how to do the repair post installation, and on this one I'm going to use a silver bullet shell as the demonstrator. This one has a broken pilot and 2 broken chassis mounts. So the first thing to do is to take some cutters and cut away as much of the upper part of the broken post as you can using the cutters. For the installation on this shell, I want to have this section right here flush with this slanted edge of the inside of the shell. So I'm taking the cutters and taking off as much as I can. And then once you get it to that point, it's about all you can do with the cutters. So what I use is a Dremel with a cutting wheel on it, and I use the edge to sand down the post until I get a nice smooth edge that's basically flush with that slanted part of the shell. It looks kind of like that. Then you take the part, and in this case I'm using a red part just so it's easier to see on the camera. The actual pieces will be black like this one. And it should fit over what's left of the round part of the post and flush against the inside of the shell. You want to make sure that that's as close as you can get it, because you need these, especially if you're doing both, to fit in there tight so that you have enough clearance in between there for your smoke unit to fit. There is some extra room, but you want to make sure you give it as much space as you can. Once you've got your fit looking good, you then remove the piece back again, coat all of these inside edges with an epoxy. I use a 2-part 5-minute epoxy. Seems to hold up really well so far. Get it on there and put it back in here, and then let it harden. Now the 5-minute epoxy sets up pretty nice in 5 minutes, but I recommend that you wait overnight before you do anything further to make sure you really have a good bond. For the pilot, on this particular shell, I want to have the post basically flush with this bracket here that is the valve guide. Now this one happened to break off right at that spot, so lucky me, I don't have to do anything else. But if I was doing that to the other side, I would also probably cut it like I did with the chassis post, and then if I have to, use a grinding wheel or a cutoff wheel to take it down a little further if I'm not far enough. If you go a little too far, it's probably okay too, because the way this piece works in there is there's extra length in here, so if the post came up a little short, wouldn't make that much difference. This little knob on the side is what determines how far on the replacement post goes, because it fits right down in this space here between the metal guide and the edge of the shell. So when you slide this down on to the post that's remaining, you push it down until it stops on those two make contact. And I don't know if you can see that post in there, but now that's in there touching. And that makes it so that the top of the mounting surface is about even or slightly below the metal bracket for the guides, and that tells you you're at the right length. If you were just doing one side, you would also want to look at it and make sure that these two surfaces are straight across. The Pilot's fairly forgiving because the Pilot truck floats on the bracket, but it's really important when you're doing the posts for the chassis, because you don't want the chassis and the shell out of alignment. And the same goes for the Pilot. Once you know that it's fitting properly, it's where you want it to be, take it back out. It's a pretty tight fit on this one. Put some glue inside the shaft that fits over the old post, and maybe even a little on these two flat surfaces that'll be against the shell. Slide it back on and let it dry. And as I said, the posts will actually be black like this, so they'll blend in better. Now the same is true for the replacement pieces for the 280 series shells. There's a few variances, but the procedure is basically the same. And then this is an Atlantic shell that's kind of been cut up, but you can kind of see how the Pilot post fits in. Once I've cleaned this down flush and flat against the bottom there, this slides in over the remaining post and fits inside that contour, and its depth is determined by this little nub sticking out of the side and sitting against this surface right here. And when you do it on these shells, the 300s and the 280 series, you want this to sit down just so there's a little bit of a lip, so that the outer part of the shell is a little higher than the mounting surface. And that allows for the Pilot truck frame to sit in there and be flush with this section. Now I do not have replacements for the chassis mount because, as you can see, that post is integral to the shell, and so trying to remove that and make a replacement is a little bit of a tricky engineering feat. It may come up later if I can come up with a good plan for that, but for now only the Pilots are available for the 300s. Pilot and chassis are available for the 280s and the 350s. Thank you for watching.